Annalise, the Ann therapist here. We're going to talk about how to find your inner child's personality type. So, the personality type is known as your force of nature. And this is something I developed over years of exhausting the limits of other personality types and getting frustrated with the idea that they don't separate out these parts of ourselves, for one thing. And also, they aren't as centered on self-discovery. They're more so about how we can put others in a box or just sort of label things as a sort of fixed point of view. And in on therapy, specifically, as we find your inner child's personality type, where the emotional center lands and what that range can naturally be understood as, it's really about understanding ourselves more. So these forces of nature are wind, ocean, mountain, and fire. And I picked these reference points, these metaphors, because we all have an understanding of what those forces of nature are, how they behave, what it means. Don't overthink this. Don't make it harder than it has to be. You don't actually necessarily even need a list of traits specifically if you can really just settle into the idea of, okay, what does the wind act like? It's light, it's airy, it's always moving. What is fire? Well, fire is hot, fire is consuming, fire is always doing something and creating this heat and light. What is an ocean? Well, an ocean's deep and methodical. What is a mountain? Very still and set and hard and internally contained. That's why we have these forces of nature. Each one of them is equally powerful. And it's really about finding out where you land because it's going to feel like coming home. So you may have to play around with this a little. You may have to stay a little open-minded and kind of try certain ones on for size. I do have a PDF provided, and I wanted to go over a few of the notes so that you kind of have the context. First of all, you could only be one type, and you're that type all the way throughout your whole life. And the reason we designed it this way is because the whole point of therapy is to be able to reference ourselves internally and go in and find the help that we're needing from the stability of our own true nature. And so knowing that I, for instance, as a wind, am always going to be a wind, then I know when I'm struggling emotionally that there's something out of alignment with my windy nature. So I can go in and ask myself, how do I lighten up? How do I create flow? And how do I play to that natural flexibility more? So this is the part of us, the inner child is the part of us governed or personality wise that falls into one of these four categories. That is how we process emotions. So as a wind, I process emotions in a windy way. I have to be sort of up and light and moving. If you're an ocean, you process emotions by going deep. Imagine somebody just like sinking down into the bottom of the ocean where all of that darkness and pressure is. It's a good thing for an ocean. Maybe not so much for a wind, but that's why I'm not an ocean. I'm a wind. A fire needs to just burn bright around things. A mountain needs to be still and internally focused. So, and then just as a literal child, on a playground, maybe they get hurt or they have a little tiff with a friend. The inner child is really good at releasing problems, traumas, things that make things not fun and moving on. So keep in mind that once you're really dialed into this part of yourself and you understand your inner child, you will be able, emotionally speaking, to lay things down much more quickly and easily because it will be clear where your inner child is able to just naturally rise up and heal. And in therapy, things come up to come out. So when we're dealing with our emotions, they are always presenting so we can release them. And as you really understand and heal this inner child, it's going to be much easier to find a place of recovery and release than it may have been before. That's the hope anyway. And then in terms of trauma and how trauma or triggers or problems affect the inner child, this is where the fight, flight, and freeze response come in. So it's very easy to tell what's happening when the inner child is triggered. It is typically kind of a predictable pattern based on your natural force of nature. So go through this, try them on, you can look at this chart, this PDF, and see where you think you fall. And then you can also contact me for additional guidance so we can figure this out. And once you feel like you know, okay, I am this force of nature, this is my inner child, you can also um, think back to how you behaved as a child during non traumatized times when you literally were at peace, you're feeling more like yourself, some of your happiest moments, if you have some of those, and think about which of these energies aligns the best with who you are. Once you've got that locked in, then we can move on to developing the details of your inner child's character. Good luck and let me know.